Hello, I'm Jay, owner of Volunteer Audio in Oliver Springs, Tennessee. I'm making a quick video to answer some questions that keep coming up. People keep asking, why do you not have plug-and-play amplifiers set up for the Diamond Audio radios? And then why do you not sell the radios on your website? Now, we know many of you have come to trust our opinions, and this video is hopefully not going to be opinion. Hopefully, I will spend a lot of time going over facts, showing exactly the process that we go through when we test a new product and when we decide to carry it or not carry it. And in this case, this radio really failed our test bad enough that I know this video is going to come across like I'm bashing it. I want you to know that is never our intention. I want you to know that there are people involved in this that are probably pretty good people, and I don't want to see anybody go through hardships over something we've done. But I'm going to open up this radio. I'm going to show you what our process was as we went through looking at it, testing it, and deciding on if we should carry it or not. So keep watching the video. I'll go into some great detail. All facts, no opinions about the new Diamond Audio radios. All right, so the first process when you're going to review or you're going to actually test anything, you're going to have to get the product. We're not currently Diamond Audio retailers. They have asked us to be, and so far we have decided after what we've looked at that they don't really offer anything that we felt was better than what we currently offer. That's always the rule here. For us to bring in your product, it has to be different or better than what we currently carry. We don't want to just carry every brand in hopes of making a sell. I know you trust what we do. You trust that what you buy from us is going to work great, and we're going to verify that and keep those better brands. But the first thing I did was I got this box from Diamond, had the radio in it, and there were a couple red flags I wanted to point out right away. First off, on the box, it gives me the part number of the radio, and right under it, it says plug in play, and they spelled plug in wrong. It should have been just an N. But it says here, media receiver for 98 to 2013 Harley Davidson Road Glide. This radio does not fit a Road Glide. It's 100% for a Street Glide. I thought, well, maybe it's just a typo. I'll look around. The other sides of the box also said Road Glide everywhere it mentioned the radio. It's a pretty big red flag. They didn't proofread the box, and that's not correct. But then I got reading the specs, and there's some things that just really weren't real classy, things that we probably would never do in our own business. And I understand they have the rights to say whatever they want, but they like to use curse words in place of specs. As I was looking through, the display brightness was a big one because when we tested this radio, they claimed at the time a 1000 nit brightness. Now I keep up with all the different brands, I keep up with the specs, because really it's really important on a Road Glide, on the newer bikes, that you have a bright enough screen to overcome the glare behind you. Now on the Street Glide, it's not quite as bad because the screen is straight up and down. But when we did our testing and we did a video, you need to check it out, it was how do they stack up, and we compared the factory GTS radio, the Diamond radio for the 14 and newer bikes, and the Soundstream Reserve V2. We did a video comparing them. Now, we always want to make sure that these are right, that they're correct, and we went through a lot. And the only thing that I think we got maybe a little wrong on their video, and we corrected it in comments and things below, was that it had a very quick turn-on feature that we weren't able to reproduce on our bench, and we did correct that. So anytime that we are wrong, we are going to redact that, we are going to correct that statement. But the display brightness, we definitely were not wrong about. We had the brightness all the way up in the radio, and it was nowhere near as bright as the other Soundstream radios that we sold. So when it came to this radio, I really wanted to check out the brightness, and when you look up the brightness specs, it says as the effing sun. So the sun's pretty bright, probably going to burn your retinas. I thought, well, this thing is going to be crazy, crazy bright. And we'll get to that in a minute. I will put this up next to the older Soundstream radio. We'll look at the brightness, also compare it to the new one, and we'll be comparing the 1000 nit of the new one to it. And I'll let you see how bright it is, and I'll show you that the radio's all the way up in brightness. Everything we're going to do is going to be videoed so that it's fact and you can see it. So we saw that. There's a little comment on the bottom of the box that I don't even think it's worth repeating, but there's some things on the box that really just made me go, really do would I want to sell this? I know that a Harley dealership's not going to set this on their shelf and sell it. We're not going to either because it's just not within what we would normally want. So that away was something right away that was going to turn me away from them. You know, boxes, we could get rid of boxes if the radio was great. And listen, if this radio was great, I would have to have it. I would have to sell it because we're in the market selling quality audio. And if it is quality, I'm going to bring it in. But now I got it out of the box, and let me get this radio unplugged from our test station here. And I'm going to show you what I saw when I got it out of the box. Now, this probably wouldn't mean a whole lot to you, but when I took the radio out and I compared it to the new, and let me grab the new radio here from SoundStream, I realized that on the back of the radio, it was missing something. The main thing it was missing, if you notice here, we have a blue port on the back of the SoundStream radio. That is a GPS antenna port. It's not on the back of the Diamond. Now, this may be something you would overlook if you bought this radio. But what it said to me was, this thing is supposed to have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. And one of the certifications, one of the specs for MFi certification from Apple is that you have to have a dedicated GPS antenna to have certified wireless Apple CarPlay. The reason for that, your phone is going to be connecting to this radio via Bluetooth, and then that Bluetooth is going to do a handshake and it's going to swap to Wi-Fi for wireless CarPlay. When you are using the Wi-Fi in your phone, it can make the embedded GPS chip, that frequency of the Wi-Fi can actually throw off how accurate it is. So Apple said, rather than have that happen, we want to have a dedicated GPS receiver and antenna on the radio. That's going to make our navigation very, very accurate. This is important because the reason you would buy a new radio is for new features, and the most asked for features are Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And now that we've moved a couple years ahead of time, all these radios are moving to wireless CarPlay. And wireless is important that it would be certified for a couple reasons. I actually printed out some of the specs from Apple because, again, I want to use facts. I want to make sure that I'm telling you the truth. For wireless Apple CarPlay certification, a vehicle must have a functional GPS antenna to provide accurate location data to the iPhone. This is crucial for navigation apps within CarPlay, especially when the phone is in a pocket or a bag, or with potentially poor GPS reception. Essentially, the car, in this case the bike's, GPS is used to supplement the phone's location data, making a dedicated GPS antenna a key requirement for wireless Apple CarPlay functionality. Now, there is this certification, it's called MFi. Now, that MFi can stand for a couple things. Originally, it was made for iPod. Now, it's made for iPhone. When you meet that specs, you get a certification logo. That logo can be seen on the outside of the box, and there is a logo on here. It's pretty easy to print a logo and stick it on a box. But inside the radio, that logo was missing. I'll show you that as well. Part of that is when you get certification, the back button that takes you out of Apple CarPlay back into your radio is going to have the manufacturer's logo. If this was a Toyota car, it's going to say Toyota. If it's a SoundStream radio, it says SoundStream. In this case, we're missing that in the radio, but we're missing a key component that's easily searchable. You can find out, which is the wireless CarPlay requirement of the GPS antenna. Now, why is this requirement so important to you? Because I know you're thinking, well, you know, if it works, it works. I don't care if it has it. Well, there's a lot to this. When you get certified, you're stating we're using the proper internal processor that's fast enough. We're also, according to Apple, here's what they say: to achieve wireless Apple CarPlay certification, a manufacturer must meet specific hardware requirements, including robust Bluetooth and Wi-Fi compatibilities, support for location services, and comply with Apple's MFi made for iPhone program guidelines, which involves rigorous tests of the system's functionality, audio quality, and compatibility with various iPhone models, all while ensuring seamless pairing and data transfer over wireless connections. Essentially, the car's infotainment system needs to be able to discover, connect, communicate with an iPhone wirelessly using both Bluetooth for initial pairing and Wi-Fi for data transmission. They give very specific requirements, and all these are in your best interest because they're making them use better internals, better Bluetooth chips, better Wi-Fi chips, so that your use of this with your phone is seamless as well as safe, because we're relying on this to get us to the right places, and we're not going to be looking down trying to figure out why our radio's not working and get in an accident if we have all of these things in place. Now, Android does something similar, and I'll move on to that. So Android also has their own certification. Now, I've got several manufacturers we deal with that go through these processes. Apple and Android are both going to require a specific operating system in the radio to meet their certification, and most of the manufacturers use Linux. These particular radios appear to use Android, and I can say that because I've done full reboots on them and Android logos come up, and they're using Android software. And we find that when you're going to have a radio made in China, a lot of times they're going to use an Android software because it's free. But it's normally pretty buggy. It's open source, doesn't go through nearly as many certifications, and both Android Auto and Apple require you not to have it. So that was a big, when we tested this radio, I thought there's no way it's certified because of that. But there's just been more and more come about with that. One of the big things with Android Auto, again, you're going to have a certified logo. You're going to display it on your box. It's missing off the box. You're also going to have it in the radio. Again, not there as well. All of this is important for a good user experience. And at Volunteer Audio, if I sell you a radio that I know has bootleg software in it, non-certified CarPlay, non-certified Android Auto, and that quits working, I mean, come on, Apple could do an update, and these people do not have access to the software ahead of time to do what it takes to continue to have it work. So then you're going to reach out to us. We look like the bad guy because we sold you the radio knowing there was an issue. Now, I thought to myself, the GPS antenna is missing on the outside, but maybe they did something really smart. Maybe they built it into it. There's some weird things on the face I didn't quite understand. So I did take this radio apart. But before I did that, the first thing is I went to the FCC's website. So the FCC requires certification of all electronics sold in the US, and because of that, these radios are going to have an FCC ID on them. And if you search that on the internet, you can normally bring up documents that show the circuit boards and the internals. Keeps me from having to take it apart, and I can look for things like GPS receivers. Well, I searched the FCC ID, and I'm not going to tell you that their FCC ID is fake, but I'm going to tell you it does not come up in the FCC's database. So if you do a Google search or go to the FCC's website and you search for this radio's FCC ID or this one, they have no history or record of it online. Now I can search the first 5 digits, which is the manufacturer's code, and it comes up to some Bluetooth soundbar they made a while back. So it is very, very normal that if we search an ID, that maybe the item that comes up doesn't fully match what we're having, but normally you're going to search that full ID. And I'll give you an example. If you search up one of the SoundStream radios, it's going to bring up one of their car radios that uses the same Bluetooth and Wi-Fi chip internally as their motorcycle radio, because it has passed its FCC identification and its certification. That is a forever certification. You don't have to recertify over and over, but you can take a variant that uses the same components and register to the same ID. So we're pretty normal that we could probably search this radio and we might even get the same ID for both of these because they're a variant of the same chips. In this case, neither one came up. That did not allow me to look online at the internals and look at the GPS chip to see if there was one there. So I did take it apart. So I flipped it over, took the panel off, and I found no GPS receiver on the circuit board, as well as nowhere for an antenna to go. Just to make sure they didn't move that somehow to the face, I took the face off, I searched that too. So I know within a shadow of a doubt, there is no GPS in this. It does not meet Apple certification. That alone is enough for us to be worried about selling you this radio because I want it to work well. But I'm going to show you a couple other things because I went ahead and I powered it up, and I'm not going to go into all of it. I dynoed the old radio, and I'm going to tell you, it was so weak. They said I dynoed it wrong. We use an AD1 dyno. It's the industry standard dyno for any shop to use. Steve Mead Designs uses it when he tests all the big amplifiers. And really the only variable in our test on the last one was radio. We tested 3 radios. We tested them the same way, using the same dyno and the same track, and we got 3 different results. And this one was very, very low in power. I'm sure this one would do that too, but there's no need for me to continue on because I'm not going to sell you bootleg software, non-certified CarPlay radios and tell you it's the best thing that's ever been out. I'm not going to do that. But we're going to check out the screen brightness next, because the screen brightness was something they said was as bright as the sun, and I thought that it would be good for us to look at that. So let me plug this radio in. I'll plug in the new SoundStream radio, and we're going to compare those screen brightnesses. All right, so I want to do a brightness test, but I've run into a couple things that are just a little wonky about this radio that's making this hard to do an accurate comparison. First off, it is stuck with the dark backgrounds. This may be a side effect of not having true certified Apple CarPlay, but I've got the brightness on the radio. I'm going to back up to the home. I'm gonna hit the sun icon. This is where you do the brightness of the screen. It is all the way up. There is no daytime, nighttime mode in the radio. I've searched through all of it. It didn't come with an owner's manual. There's no owner's manual online. I did look at the videos, and we reached out and actually asked somebody that worked at Diamond about how to do brightness, and they said the only way to do it was from the sun icon at the top. So I looked into that to try to figure it out, and what I found out was it doesn't actually have any way to go from daylight to dark. So the background is always in a dark mode, even though we have the same background selected. Now I can go into my sound stream, I can select daytime or nighttime mode, and I can go back out and you'll see now I'm on the same color background. But I can't show you the daytime mode compared to night mode because it's stuck in night mode all the time. One other thing I want you to see right off the bat, we only have 4 icons across the screen on the Diamond. We have 5 on the sound stream. When you go through that certification process, they're going to optimize the software for the radio it's being used for. In this case, 5 icons looks a whole lot better than 4. It's going to be a lot more usable. And you'll also notice that there's an icon here that says SoundStream. If you hit SoundStream, it's going to take you back into your radio to your home screen. If I go back to CarPlay, that's how you're going to get out of there. And there's also some back buttons. But on this radio, it just says car. You know, if you were going to build a radio from the ground up and certify it for a motorcycle, why in the world would you have an icon that says car that takes you out instead of having an icon that either says diamond or motorcycle? It should say something other than that. It's just more proof that they did not get certification, because that is something you get along with that certification, is your own icon, which they do not have. All right, so we're comparing the brightness. The brightness on this screen, again, is as bright as it will go. It's as high as it will go. We'll go back to CarPlay here, and you're going to see here, let's bring up our icons so we've got a side-by-side comparison. This radio is way brighter. This is the WHDSG. So that's the latest radio from SoundStream for 98 to 13 street glides. It has 1000 NIT brightness and a QLED screen. And I think the comparison, there is no comparison between these two on brightness. Both radios have backlit buttons that when you turn the screen off, they go away. And I know they record really weird. Right now, these are solid white, they're bright, but in the recording, they're probably going to change colors because LEDs actually turn on and off at a different frame rate than a phone will record. With the brightness, I can go into this radio and I can turn it to a night mode and I can dim it up or down. And let me go into as dim as it will go. Let's go here and look. Let's go display settings. Let's go nighttime brightness. Let's bring it on down. When it's this bright, you may have to dim it at night. And one of the things that was said last time, I watched a little video where we were really called out and said we did a lot of things wrong. But one of the things they said in the video, they said, well, Diamond didn't want the radio too bright because at night it would just blind you. Well, we have a daytime, nighttime mode here, and dimmed all the way down as low as it will go. We're pretty well in the same position that we are on the Diamond radio. I've also noticed that the contrast from the side is really bad on the Diamond radio. The further you get away, the more it goes away, and straight on, it's nowhere near as bright as well. But there's a huge difference in brightness. So the bright as the sun comment was definitely not needed, guys. It's not classy. Shouldn't have cursed on the outside of the box. Hey, if you curse, that's up to you. But in business, it should not be there. And you definitely shouldn't use it to describe a feature on your radio, especially when it's not really that bright. But this was a big, you know, if this was better, we'd have to bring it in. It's really not, and we can't see that it is. Now, on Android Auto, here's another big thing that I thought was crazy. You go into the settings of the radio, and there was a place here where you could turn on some features. They actually have a place to turn AA wireless on and off. The reason it says AA wireless and not Android Auto is because they're not certified or approved to put that in here, and they're worried about what may come back on them. I hope, you know, I could keep going. I could keep going and going and going. I could test the RCA out, the internal amp. I could tell you how wonky the DSP was, and I could go through and prove that. Because what they tried to do is they tried to say they built a DSP in, and it does not work great. We did a video on the other one. We downloaded those outputs, the high-level outputs, and they were 9 watts, so it was so weak. But here's what we've got. When you take one of these radios and you send it to China and you tell a manufacturer to copy it, this is what you get. I know the manufacturer they used. I knew when they started making these radios that they weren't going to be certified because the manufacturer they're using doesn't have certification. and it's a lower end manufacturer that makes some really low end radios for places like Amazon and Walmart, but they did not come out with a low end radio in price. And that's another big thing about this is the WHDSG is actually significantly lower priced than the Diamond version. It's actually a couple $100 cheaper. And I know it costs these companies a lot of money for certification. Apple charges them, Android charges them, the FCC charges them. All these companies get charged all these fees to go through, but those checks and balances are in place to guarantee that you get a great quality product, that it's safe more than anything else. And at Volunteer Audio, we want to make sure what we sell you is also a great product and it's safe. So if you got questions about this, guys, if you work for Diamond, if you're mad at me, I'm sorry. It wasn't meant to make you mad. But if there's anything you think that I have said wrong, if you've got proof that I'm incorrect in anything, whether it be the CarPlay certification, the Google certification for Android, brightness of the screen, if there's another way to make it brighter, tell me what that is. I'll reshoot the video. We'll go over it in greater detail, or we'll pull it down. This isn't meant to do anything wrong, and I think it is all factual in every way that I've been able to check it. All the information shared about Apple certification, Google certification, FCC, were all pulled from their websites or online through reputable resources. We'll have that shared in the description. You also saw it on screen. This isn't something we made up. If you need to reach out to us, do so. 1-844-30-AUDIO, ask for Jay. If you're one of the manufacturers, I'll talk to you about it and we'll see what we can do to correct anything that was incorrect, but I don't think we're wrong. And if you want to make a video saying we're wrong, just reach out to me, and anything that we are wrong about, I'll correct. If you're a consumer, I hope you understand why we go through this process. We really value the trust that you put into us, and we want to make sure that everything we sell you is top quality. The manufacturer is going to stand behind it, and we don't have to worry about some sort of software issue making it not work in the future. Thank you for your support, your trust, your business, and we definitely don't take that for granted. If you need help deciding on the right audio system for your Harley, you want to talk to a knowledgeable salesperson or our tech staff, give us a call at 1-844-30-AUDIO. We'd love to talk to you about your bike, your build, your budget. We'll help you put together an amazing audio system for your Harley. I'd love to talk to you. If you got any comments, questions about these radios, put them below. I'll be quick to answer it. Let's keep it clean. Let's not curse. Let's not do things that we shouldn't be. And your comments will stay up as long as they're within that guidelines. If you start cursing, we're going to remove them. That's just part. We do that on our channel anywhere at any time, even if it's for us and you're talking good about us. Don't curse when you do it. I'm going to remove the comments. Nothing against you. We're just going to keep everything clean and classy. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following Volunteer Audio. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. We're going to always keep you up to date with the latest in audio. And every now and then we're going to make something like this, but normally it's going to be new products before anybody else shows them to you, how to install them, how to use them, how to make sure it's the right item to add to your Harley before you spend your hard-earned money. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, God bless.